You mentioned some of these younger players playing well. I think that's the right place to start today. Mr. Keandre Lambert-Smith highlighted with the catch of the day, in one-on-one situations. Trey Harris has looked apart. Justin Herbert spoke very glowingly about him today. Kamani Vidal working with the first team. We've talked about Aranda Gadsden as 2 potential day 3 picks. And then, man, Omari Hampton has put on the pads once, but the beat reporters cannot be more positive about Mr. Omari Hampton, their current running back 1. So you have titled this slide, Tyler, Ortiz cooked again. And I think we are en route to that being true.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. And by the way, like they have Ladd McConkey and Joe Walt, these 2024 guys that they brought in last year who are established and very good. But
yeah,
I mean, it's been a bit of a tricky offseason because in March, we're hoping for maybe a trade or a bigger name, a more significant X receiver. And they opt to do none of that. And they go with Mike Williams. Okay. But they go into the draft. They bring in Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Aranda Gadsden. These are names. Some we like more than others. Some are going to play more than others. But like, what can they do? How are they going to be in this offense? And then Mike Williams retires. And we're going, fuck, like, what are we going to do?
Shit.
Yeah, like this really sucks. Okay, so now what? Yeah. Well, what is that these offensive players, and I get that it's training camp, they are stepping up, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch these guys, in particular with Justin Herbert, and a lot of the times with the ones, really, really start to come together. I know some of it, of course, like we mentioned, the retirement, and yes, Najee Harris is also like on the NFI. So maybe if both those guys were out there, you don't get to see these guys as much with Herbert, but they're not. And so you get to see these guys.
Yeah.
True to Herbert form, like these guys are doing well with Herbert because these guys, Justin Herbert said, like Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, sometimes with rookies, they don't know where to go. The routes aren't crisp, yada, yada, yada. With these guys, that is not the case. Sure. Do I have some questions about, like, say, a Keandre Lambert-Smith or even a Trey Harris or Gadsden in a real game situation? Sure. They still have to answer those questions. But for right now, they are just crushing it. And defense is doing well too. In fact, better. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, these weapons, these young weapons in particular, are doing exactly what we'd hope to see from them. And you just feel so good about the future of this group. I kind of have been comparing them to like that Packers run where they just brought in 3 receivers and 2 tight ends and a running back. And just everybody just kind of grew with Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Was their core. Are they all great? No, but there's a core and that offense works. So I think, and I'm hoping the Chargers have that here with these receivers and these running backs.
Yeah, and obviously the Chargers have Ladd McConkey, who would be the best receiver in Green Bay. So that certainly helps, and he's having a fantastic camp as well. Jim Harbaugh said today that he has been uncoverable in training camp so far. I think when we talk about these young players, I think the thing, like for me personally, is that previously I have been so tricked with like being optimistic about day 3 picks and thinking that they would be impactful players right away. And so now I have just kind of trained my brain to like, okay, the day 3 picks, maybe one of them will play right away, and we'll just kind of have to assume that the other ones are going to get redshirt seasons. Maybe they even get cut. And some of that happened last year. Obviously, Brendan Rice basically did not contribute, and Cornelius Johnson was cut. Kamani Vidal, for how positive we felt about him, didn't exactly like play a ton either. So some of that is true and was true last season. But then Cam Hart and Tar Heel still happen. And I'm like, okay, like which is it? Is it the day 3 picks don't contribute, or do they contribute? And now with Keandre Lambert-Smith and Aranda Gadsden in particular, if they can hit, it just kind of shows, again, that Joe Ortiz knows a lot more football than we ever will. And in particular, like Aranda Gadsden, I wasn't a huge fan of. You weren't a huge fan of Keandre Lambert-Smith. But it just shows that like identifying traits and skill sets and characters, putting them in positive situations can really, really do so much good for them. And for all the grief that we have given the Chargers front office for, maybe not being a little bit more aggressive with wide receiver or interior offensive line, they can find these gems and turn them into good football players, obviously at a much higher clip than we are used to. And so there's a lot of football to be played left, obviously, but things are definitely trending in a much more positive direction for KLS and OG, as they say, in particular, which I think is obviously great news for this offense overall.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And with the DBs last year, we wouldn't have seen any of them. Like Asante Samuel, there's a world where Fulton and Asante Samuel Jr. and Jasir Taylor are your starting trio the entire year. And maybe they bench one of those guys at some point, but they, guys got hurt. And then we see these day 3 guys. Same thing this year with these guys. Unfortunately, Najee Harris with his situation, Rocket Sanders technically as well, not playing right now. Don't really know what's going on there. Mac Williams retiring. All right, you've got young guys. And that's the other thing. Joel Ortiz has given the Chargers so many at-bats that you do have so many bodies to bring in and try things out. Like maybe only 2 of the offensive weapons from this year work out. Hey, that's great. That's awesome. Like you tried it multiple times. And of course, they're not all going to work out, but you have so many at-bats, you're going to find guys. And that's why you're watching these highlights and, okay, there's the first team. There's the second. Like everybody. And, Rager's the guy they signed. Obviously, Quentin Johnson from a different regime. But it's like you have QJ working. Rager's working. McConkey, you drafted. Fantastic. Joel, fantastic. Harris looks great. Gadsden, Vidal, like, holy cow. Like, just because of the sheer number of at-bats, they're doing well. But also, they've been finding, it seems, the guys that'll work with Greg Roman. I think Ladd McConkey's probably good in most situations. But hey, I'll give them credit. He was very much so specifically good with Greg Roman. Again, I think he would have been fine anywhere else. Having Herbert does help, but he really worked for them. Joe Walt with this offense worked for them. And I think the more they keep, I feel very strongly that Hampton's going to work for them as well. Harris as well, definitely. Gadsden, at least in his role. These guys are they're fitting, they're working, they're young, they're healthy, they're on rookie deals. Things are going to get a bit more expensive maybe for the Chargers, but because of the Rashawn Slater deal, obviously, that I hope that we'll talk about, I guess.
Yeah.
But to have this many, I think, productive and exciting rookies is awesome.
Yeah, Aaron pointing out the coaching staff too, and perhaps the coach that I received the least positive feedback about when the Chargers hired him was Sanjay Lal.
Yep.
There's he had bounced around, and his work in Dallas wasn't super perceived very well, and then he goes to Jacksonville as part of the Urban Meyer coaching staff, which obviously we know did not work out super well. But man, are we really seeing the ability that he's had with this overall, the wide receiver group, and even getting a guy like Simi Fehoko last year, to be able to contribute in an effective way. And I think shows that Sanjay really knows how to work with his players and really knows how to get the most out of them. And when he said oh, Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith, they're kind of behind the curve. They're not where we want them to be, fitness level wise. And then you hear that they're not even getting reps with the first team offense for the first few bit of OTAs. I'm like, man, is Sanjay just being a little too stuck in his ways? But then training camp comes around, and these 2 young players, Quentin as well, which we'll get to in a second, they all seem like they're hitting the ground running. And again, it's training camp, but we're not used to this. We're not used to a 5th-round rookie like Keandre Lambert-Smith missing most of the spring, coming into training camp and having a fantastic start to training camp. We haven't really seen stuff like this. So I'm not trying to overreact to training camp, but again, we talked about this on Saturday. You want to see players hit the ground running. And right now, Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Oronde Gadsden in particular are doing that. And the other one, obviously, is Omarion Hampton. And Daniel Popper was talking about him last night and what he looks like in person. And Popper said juice with a capital J. He is big and physical and fast. And even without pads, his athleticism is definitely popping right now. So, again, all positive signs. It's been 5 practices, but the young, weapons on the offense are having very strong camps to start, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, we are so used to, and it's partially because these players were as good as they were, but used to, okay, it's Keenan Allen, it's Mike Williams, for at least 4 years now, it was Josh Palmer, but generally it's Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, those are your guys. So there's not really a new thing. It's always just kind of some day 3 guys. But we always had the receiver room kind of set with at least 2 guys and maybe a running back with either Gordon or Eckler. Not that it's great, but it's sort of been set. With this group, I don't know. With Telesco, like it has not been automatic at all. Maybe it has been a fit issue, but when we're talking about like Isaiah Spiller, like they were not playing him. He could not pick up the playbook or
There was
whatever.
like not a peep about Isaiah Spiller
No,
for 2 years.
not a single word. Unless players were like hurt or holding out or whatever, like he wasn't even playing with the ones at all. Couldn't get work on special teams, nothing. I don't recall the Trey McKitty breakout practices. I think he's had like one or two, but I think he finished like his last preseason with the Chargers with negative yards. Like it's not automatically great, and you usually don't see like outside of the first round, second round for Telesco, obviously. And again, that's on the coaches too.
Yeah.
We want these hits. We're just like, all right, those are your stars. And everyone else is just maybe going to make the roster, maybe contribute. Everybody is just competing and they look great. They all have chemistry. It's incredible to see through your 2 years.
Yeah. Otto asking, has the scouting team grown under Ortiz? That's helping the Chargers make better selections. The scouting department has actually not changed that much. Obviously, Chad Alexander is part of it. There's one new main area scout. I believe there were some other, internal promotions and things like that. The scouting staff has not really changed that much. The process has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And you pointing out the coaching staff there is key. Like it felt like for so long, the Chargers would pick players that Telesco liked and then like occasionally throw the coach a bone. Here's your Kenneth Murray. Here's your Asante Samuel Jr. kind of thing. And then for the most part, he was like, I'm picking my players and you coach them. Whereas now with Ortiz and Harbaugh, the two are aligned. The two have the same vision. Obviously, Harbaugh has called them like Batman and Robin. So there's just a greater sense of alignment. There's a greater understanding of picking the kind of players that Harbaugh likes and that Roman likes and that Minter likes. So it's not that the scouting staff has changed. The process has changed and the alignment with the coaching staff has changed. And I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. With Anthony Lynn, you look back on that era and it's like, with all the things Lynn wanted to do and like Gus Bradley wanted to do, where was the offense that Lynn wanted to run? What did Telesco do to get him that? Like, if you're going to be you want to run the ball 50 million times and you're that kind of team, where was that alignment? Wasn't there. And then the opposite, complete different pendulum swing happens with Brandon Staley. Telesco, to his credit, pretty much got Brandon Staley whoever he wanted. Like the players, like a lot of Staley guys, a lot of Staley type guys, you name it. Like you can blame Telesco for JC Jackson. Sure, 100%. Brandon Staley freaking like you saw the video of him reading off all the things he loved about JC Jackson and Sebastian Joseph Day and Eric Kendricks and all these guys. But the coaches never did their end. Like they never held up that end. So like couldn't get it for the coach the first time. The coach could not seal the deal with the second round or the third round technically. With this group, it just feels like, okay, here's what I want. It works. We're vertically aligned. They'll take these players. They work for us and we'll do our part and elevate them. It's just, I know it's one day of padded practice. It's only year 2, the start of it too, but it's just beautiful to see so far.
Yeah, I think part of this is obviously like the pendulum swing of Mike Williams retiring, and now we're like, okay, like now what is the vision here? Yeah. And then Trey Harris is holding out. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff going around there, and I was a little bit more optimistic than you about KLS, but even I was not expecting him to like come out and have these optimistic moments and right away have catches of the day kind of plays. So the pendulum swing here is real. I don't think this is changing like either of our win-loss prediction totals. Like we're not picking them to win the Super Bowl. I think we're just reacting positively to players who we've been cautioned and trained to be patient with, and now they're starting out practice very, very strongly. So I don't think we're overreacting too much. I think this is all very positive, but we're not necessarily changing how we feel about the team overall.
Right. So far, ask me again when the season starts, and we will change our predictions, I'm sure, or at least give an updated prediction. But for right now, I think we're just happy. The only thing better than being right is being right, and then everyone you were not so sure about, you're wrong about them, and they're good too. Like that is the best possible outcome. Is that you were wrong about these players in a good way? Say a Tarheeb still. Maybe we'll find out a Keandre Lambert-Smith. Like sure, McConkey great, all great, fine. But Tarheeb still. Let's see Keandre Lambert-Smith. It's good to be, I think, wrong about those players. Again, we'll see with some of these.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of Oronde Gadsden's college tape. His specific kind of tight end is not really my favorite.
Sure.
But man, if he hits in this offense, you better believe I'm going to be, singing his praises. Maybe not as highly as Alex, who is already like going crazy with the Aranda Gadsden hype train and like is talking about buying a jersey and everything like that. But that's the beauty of this, evaluation process is that you get to like players, not like players, but then when they end up on the Chargers, you end up just rooting for them and obviously hoping you are wrong or right, like you mentioned, and confirming priors obviously is less important.